Welcome back, everyone, to Stories That Shouldn't Be Told. In today's episode, I'm sharing a chilling Appalachian folk horror tale about an old cabin in the hollow. Jars filled with dark secrets and the knocking that should never have been answered. Every story is a warning. Some doors in these mountains were never meant to open. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with anyone who loves a good scare. And let me know in the comments what kind of folklore or legends creep you out the most. Your support keeps the nightmares alive. Now, let's begin. Tommy Briggs never thought he'd go back to his granny's place up in the Appalachian Hollow. After she passed that spring, his family kept saying someone needed to check on the cabin. Nobody wanted to make that drive up the mountain, though. The road was barely more than a logging trail, winding through thick stands of pine and oak that swallowed up the light. When Tommy finally pulled into the clearing, his truck engine sounded like thunder in all that silence. The cabin hunched under moss-covered shingles, smaller than he remembered. The front porch sagged so low it nearly touched the ground. His granny's rocking chair sat there waiting, thick with yellow pollen. Inside hit him like a wall. Wood smoke and something sweet sick that made his throat close up. Her quilts still lay folded at the foot of the bed. Mason jars lined every shelf, dozens of them, filled with dark shapes floating in cloudy water. Things that looked like they were watching him. Tommy had always wondered what Granny kept in those jars. Not for eating, she'd always say with that sharp look. For keeping things settled, keeping the mountain quiet. Tommy set his bag down. The floorboards groaned under his weight. Long, drawn out. Like the house was sighing. He moved toward the kitchen and the sound followed him. Board after board complaining beneath his feet. He planned to stay one night, grab her papers, lock up, and leave. But when the sun dropped behind the ridge, the silence got thick, heavy. Every creak of the old wood made him freeze. Shadows stretched wrong across the walls, reaching toward him with finger-like darkness. Around midnight, Tommy heard singing. Faint at first, drifting down from high on the mountain. A woman's voice, thin as wire, singing something that might have been a hymn, but the words were off, twisted. Amazing grace, how deep the ground that saved a wretch like me. Tommy went to the window, but saw only black between the trees. The voice got clearer as it circled the cabin, pausing at each window, waiting, listening. Tommy could hear breathing now, wet, ragged, right against the glass. When the presence reached the back door, the singing cut off like a knife. Silence stretched, then came 3 soft knocks. Tommy pressed himself against the wall, held his breath. The knocks came again, patient, deliberate, each one echoing through the cabin like a gunshot. Then that voice, sweet as poisoned honey. "Let me in, child. I've been walking so long." The door handle turned, slow, testing. When it didn't give, the knocking started again. Harder now. The whole frame shook. "I knew your granny. She always had room for travelers." Through the kitchen window, Tommy saw her. Tall and bone-thin in a tattered white dress. She moved wrong, joints creaking like old wood with every step. The smell hit him through the glass, wet earth and mold, like something that had crawled up from a root cellar. When she turned toward the glass, her face rippled like water, features sliding around where they shouldn't be. Her hand pressed against the window, palm flat, fingers spread wide. The glass fogged around her touch, and Tommy saw her mouth moving. No sound, just lips forming words he couldn't read. The knocking stopped. The hand slid down the glass, slow, leaving streaks of something dark. Everything went dead quiet except for his heart slamming against his ribs. Then he heard it, footsteps on the roof, slow, deliberate, moving from one end to the other, like something was measuring the space. Each step groaned through the rafters like old timber settling. The steps stopped. Silence. Then they started again. Faster now, back and forth, like whatever was up there was getting excited. Debris rained from the ceiling, dust, old splinters. The footsteps stopped directly overhead. Tommy looked up. The ceiling sagged slightly, and he swore he could see the outline of feet pressing down. Then came the scratching, wet, hungry, like fingernails tearing at the shingles. The sound made his teeth ache. A piece of ceiling began to bow, crack, split. Tommy grabbed his granny's shotgun from above the mantel. His hand shook so bad the barrel knocked against the wall. The scratching got frantic. Wood splintered. Chunks fell to the floor. Something pale pushed through the growing hole. A hand, an arm, fingers too long for any human hand, bark rough and stained with earth, reaching down, searching. The fingers curled and uncurled like they could taste the air. He ran, hit the front door so hard it slammed against the wall, stumbled into the clearing with that thing above him, making sounds like breaking glass. His truck keys were still inside, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He crashed through the tree line and kept going. Branches tore at his face, roots caught his feet. Behind him, that terrible laughter echoed through the hollow, like it was coming from everywhere at once. 3 miles down the mountain, a trucker found him on the main road just after dawn, shivering, bleeding from a dozen scratches, talking about pale hands reaching through his granny's ceiling. When Sheriff Morrison checked the cabin 2 days later, everything looked normal. No hole in the roof, no footprints in the dirt. But Morrison seemed rattled when he came back down, kept glancing over his shoulder on the drive out. Later, over coffee at the diner, he mentioned one thing that made Tommy's blood freeze. All those mason jars in the kitchen were empty. Whatever had been floating in that murky water was gone. Every last jar cleaned out, like someone had been real hungry. "Third time I heard about singing up there," Morrison said quietly, staring into his coffee. "Don't much like going up that way after sunset anymore." Tommy never went back, never settled his granny's affairs. Says some doors in these mountains shouldn't be opened. Some things that live in the deep hollows are better left sleeping. His family says he won't live anywhere near pine woods now. Keeps mason jars filled with salt water on every windowsill of his apartment in town. Never explains why, just changes the subject when asked. But sometimes, on quiet nights when the wind's just right, folks say you can still hear that singing drifting down from the ridge, sweet and twisted. Amazing grace, how deep the ground, calling for someone to let her in. That was the end of the story. If you felt the chill of these mountains tonight, make sure to like this video, share it with those who love a good scare, and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next tale waiting in the dark.